Good evening. My name is Adam Castañeda, and I'm the director of the Houston Fringe Festival, a program of the Pilot Dance Project. Welcome to night 4. This year, we went digital to ensure that our artists and patrons remain safe during this pandemic. To create our digital festival, we filmed short works at the match and are presenting them through Zoom and Facebook Live to you free of charge. I'd like to thank my board of directors for their support in all of the Pilot Dance Project's programming. And the 2020 program is made possible by support from the Texas Commission on the Arts and DanceSource Houston's Groundworks grant. For those of you who are craving in-person performances, I'd like to remind everyone that our closing night event, Anything Goes, will be a socially distanced live showcase held at the newly constructed Pet Theater. There are 25 tickets available, and they can be purchased at houstonfringefestival.org under the Events tab. And believe it or not, planning is already underway for the 2021 festival. So if you would like to donate to those efforts, check the link in the comments section on the Facebook Live stream. So tonight, we are showing 3 new dance works by artists from the Pilot Dance Project, Ashley Horn, Lori Yule, and myself. These works represent a pivot that the company had to make as a result of the pandemic. In January, I planned to produce the company's first repertory concert featuring works by artists in the company. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but 2 pieces from that concert did make it all the way to production. So tonight is a celebration of that small victory. The first premiere we'll watch and discuss is Moonbird by Ashley Horn. Ashley Horn is a dancer, choreographer, filmmaker, costume designer, and artist from the Houston area. She has shown choreography in films at ACDF, the University of Houston, Big Range Dance Festival, the Texas Weekend of Contemporary Dance, Third Coast Dance on Film Festival, and Dance Month at the JCC. She has been the artist in residence at Hopestone and Rice University and has been a guest choreographer for the Pilot Dance Project. She's also the early childhood education director at Hopestone Incorporated. So without further ado, the Houston Fringe Festival is excited to premiere Moonbird by Ashley Horn. Well, that was such a nice piece to watch, and um, in my opinion, it was a very nice piece to dance as well. So, Ashley, let's go ahead and get started. You know, can you just tell us a little bit about the subject matter and the creative process of Moonbird? And I'm asking because during pre-production, we talked a little bit about the piece, like we always do at the very beginning. And in my head, the finished dance shifted a little bit from those early ideas. So can you talk a little bit about the inspiration, the source of the piece, and then the process?
Sure. First, I'd like to thank Pilot Dance Project and all the dancers for letting me set that work and for their beautiful performances. It was really nice to watch it. And as far as the subject matter, there was a time in my life about a year ago when it was one of those like when it rains, it pours kind of situations. And I was consistently up in the middle of the night, kind of worrying and fretting. And all of a sudden, one night, there was this beautiful songbird that was outside of my window, and it stayed there singing in the middle of the night for like a month. 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And it was so out of place, but it was so beautiful. And it really had this impact on this time in my life. And so this piece is about kind of the convergence of this thing that is quintessentially daytime, but it happens in the middle of the night, and something that was so beautiful happening at a time in my life that was kind of ugly, and just this how things can be two totally different things at the same time. And so I wanted to build this bird's nest that was also a moonscape and just kind of explore all of those things that were happening that were so far apart but happening at the same time.
Mm. Um, so I am curious to know, because there's such a significant craft component to your work. You make all of your own costumes and you often incorporate installation elements, which I think we saw here tonight. Um, and that's a very uh, unusual quality, I think, especially for, a Houston dance maker. And I was wondering if you could speak to where this desire to make comes from. Why are these design elements so important to you, and how do they function within your process?
I think when I start thinking about a work, I do think about movement, but before I even think about movement, I think about a place and a time and who is dancing or what is dancing, and it comes about, and I think about this whole world, uh, and I journal on it and sketch about it before I ever start making movement. And I just that's the way that I think about these pieces is kind of world building. And so when I make a piece, I've already had in mind where it's going to be, and what the dancers are wearing, is is not only a visual aspect of the work that's important to me. It the time that I spend making it is kind of a meditative process that I use to think about the work and think about the dancers. And it's a really important part of the process as far as um, specifically what is happening in the piece.
Mm. Um, I have a question for one of your longtime dancers, and I'm curious to know if she's here right now, Shannon. Um, if she's not here, though, I do see other people who have been in your work in the room. So anybody who has been in Ashley's pieces can ask this question, answer this question. So let me see if I could reformat it. So, well, first of all, I've been in 5 of your works now, and for me, um, I feel like each work is its own universe, which you just spoke to. So, for those of us who have been in Ashley's worlds, um, I'm curious to know, like, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to dance the movement in these worlds and sort of bring these universes to life? How does that feel as a dancer and a performer? Well,
I can respond if that's okay.
yeah, for sure.
So it definitely was different this time because of course we were only in the theater for the one day and didn't really have any idea of what things would look like or be. Ashley said that we'd be in pods. Nobody knew what that meant, I don't think, until we actually were like helping to like kind of put them together and be inside of them and everything. Um, but yeah, especially with this one, there was a very surreal kind of dreamy feeling. Um, and I think that was probably further intensified by, you know, the fact that I was like, oh God, there's a leg coming at my face. I should watch out for that and that kind of situation. But yeah, each one has its own life and its own personality. And yeah, it makes a really big difference in how you approach the movement once you're in it.
And for those of you who are watching, that was Lindsay Courtner, who was also in the piece that we just watched. And what she's referring to is the fact that we did not dance this piece together until the day of the recording. So previous to that, all of the learning and the creation process was done via Zoom. So we got to the theater, Ashley staged it, we ran through it a few times, and then the performance was as you just saw it. Um, so thank you, Lindsay. Anybody else want to speak to dancing in Ashley's worlds?
I can speak a little. So I've only been in two. It makes me think of, I guess for me, the performance element of dance always heightens what the dance is. But for me, being in Ashley's work, it kind of up levels that. And the two pieces I've been in were much like this, that I didn't, the other one was in the hotel. So we didn't rehearse there. So it's, yeah, it adds a new life once you get into the space, and it's almost like the movement didn't come alive until we were there, but then once it does, it, yeah, it really becomes this whole other world, like she said. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, actually, in rehearsal, you also talked about how, like, the livingness of the material, like not to I don't know if not to perfect it is the right way to put it, but that you like it not super over rehearsed. So I think that to me played into that too. It's sort of like this living thing that once you get into the space, it really takes on its own life.
Yeah, I think that for a couple reasons, whenever I have these pieces that are really heavy on installation or set, I kind of keep that what it's going to be close to the vest. One, because it's really fluid and I might change my mind about things up until the day before, and I don't want to have committed to an idea when I have a better idea, but also because I feel the most successful when dancers walk into the space and are affected by it immediately and then perform in it without it having time to get stale on them. I feel like they can just kind of like the sense of awe or wonder or whatever the set is supposed to be can just wash over them in that moment, and that's an important part of my process.
Thank you. Um, on that note, in terms of process, I'm curious to know Lindsay's perspective on this. So Lindsay, you're a part of this panel now, so feel free to jump in when you want. But what is Ashley's process like? And what keeps bringing you back time and time again? Because you've been in a successive row of Ashley's pieces. So what keeps you saying yes?
I say this to Ashley all of the time, but one of the things that keeps me coming back is that her movement feels really good and it makes sense on my body. Whereas sometimes in a different person's process, I'll have to really try to figure out how to make the movement make sense to me and how to make it look good and all that kind of stuff. And it I mean, yeah, sometimes I'll see myself in a video afterward and be like, oh, I thought that looked really great, but you know, but still, I mean, it still feels really more or less natural to me. So that's part of it, but also part of it really is because we have some agency in it. Ashley will give us, you know, lots of movement phrases that she's created on our own, but also give us the a task or an idea of like, oh, well, make these shifts, make these changes to it, and then try it this way, try it that way. And so we also have time to sort of be part of the creative process, which I didn't love in the beginning, if I'm going to be honest, but now I really, really enjoy and appreciate. And yeah, between that and the like you've called it, like a whole like creation of a universe or a world or whatever, like that is another big factor. And that her costumes are amazing. There's that too. So yeah.
Well, I want to contribute too. So, you know, I think I could definitely agree with Lindsay that part of the process that I enjoy so much is the autonomy that you give us, and the fact that I feel that I'm engaged for the entire time that I'm there. And, you know, I think it's a very, it's a really great feeling to feel like you're kind of in the co-pilot seat, and that you're collaborating with the lead artist, because when she does give you an assignment, you're never wrong. You know, she takes what you create and she takes your ideas and either lets them be, or allows them to grow into something more specific to her vision. And it's just a great feeling to be excited about rehearsal, because you know it's going to be a highlight of your week. So that's what I think Ashley's process is like. Um, so I kind of want to open it up to the entire room, or if there's a Facebook comment. I think we actually do have a comment that I want to go ahead and read. Um, so this is from Jennifer Hart Salter. Ashley's material is always challenging, but she directs it very well. She's always specific about it, how it should feel, taking the time to discuss that in depth during the rehearsal. As a dancer, I appreciate her process because it's calm and she goes into the process knowing what she's looking for. Yeah, that calmness factor is so rewarding, because I've been in so many rehearsal processes where there is no calmness, and it could be kind of unsettling if you're if you're not that kind of dancer that feeds into that energy. So thank you, Jennifer. So anybody else who is in the room, do we have any comments or questions about Moonbird, the piece that we just saw? So Matthew Heberline says, I'm really interested in hearing about the challenges of rehearsing via Zoom, and whether there's a certain catharsis from still being able to dance amidst the obvious.
Yeah, this was the first piece that I had made through Zoom, and it was very challenging because I think, especially for my process, being together and making movement together, that's where people touch and people move through the space together, is such a typical part of my work. But I appreciated the challenge at some point, that it pushed me out of the things that I usually go to and made me think about new ways to work and new ways for bodies to move together without those components. And it was amazing to spend a day with dancers after not for so long. And I think it made me like so much more appreciative of the time that we get to spend together and the work that we get to make. Yeah.
And Ashley, I just want to conclude with one last question. And You're such a prolific choreographer, and you have been for some time. And I know this because I believe I was at your very first evening length show. And we're actually planning on doing a show this December. And what this comes down to is that, you know, we're making work during a pandemic. So I want to know what keeps you creating amidst a global crisis. You know, what is your drive to make dances? Why keep um, putting the dances that you make out into the universe?
I think there's a couple reasons. One, it's deeply satisfying to me to be a maker. To make something out of nothing, I think is just really rewarding. But also the arts have been such an important part of people's lives, even if it's like reading a book or watching television, or this time that we're kind of stuck at home. It's even more important to have this art around us that we can take in and remember you know what it's like to have a human experience. And the work that we have coming up, Adam and I are splitting a show in December 4th and 5th. I am a super introvert. I am pretty happy being by myself, and even I am going crazy from being home this long. So I know all you extroverts, my heart goes out to you. You must be just, oh my gosh. And so this work that I'm creating in December is about those tethers that we have to each other and how important they are, and how crazy it can make you when they get taken away.
From the comment section, we have a viewer who said it was a beautiful work. Another viewer said, Ashley, that was beautiful. I always find your work soothing. And Michelle Brangwin has this question: how did you create the sets?
Thank you guys for your comments. It's amazing to hear. That set was made out of this big PVC structure that we built, and then just 8,000 square feet of paper that we crumpled up and attached to it. Putting it up took a couple hours. Taking it down was like a 15-minute kind of demolition derby. But that's all it was, PVC and paper.
And another comment just now came in, wow, which that definitely deserves a wow. Thank you, Ashley, for making this work on the company and always being so open with your gifts with us. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all of your words.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everybody watching.
So next, we're going to move on to the second premiere of the night, a piece called Still Life by Lori Yule. Lori Yule is an independent choreographer, performer, and teaching artist. Her work challenges audiences to look at dance in new ways and aims to create and connect to community through movement. In 2003, Lori moved to New York to pursue a master's degree at Sarah Lawrence College. She spent the next decade in New York and DC, performing for Sarah Rudner, Annika Hansen, Enrico Way, Uprooted Dance, and Daniel Burkholder, The Playground. Lori's choreography has been presented through Wax in Brooklyn, Dance Conversations at the Flea in New York City, The Field in New York City and DC, Diverse Works, and the Big Range Dance Festival. She was a 2014-2015 Artist in Residence at DanceSource Houston and received an Artist Project Grant from Houston Arts Alliance to make the story of a space, a site-specific piece set in Tranquility Park. And fun fact, 4 years ago, she was the winner of the Best in Show category at the 2016 Houston Fringe Festival for her collaboration, You're Not Here, with Annika Hansen. So now we'll watch Still Life by Lori Yule. That was Still Life by Lori Yule. Lori, thank you so much for setting that very bold work on the company. I think it's just visually so striking. Um, so let's jump right into talking about it. The title of the piece is Still Life, and we talked about the content of this piece really being inspired by states of being during this specific time during the pandemic. Can you describe your interest in the subject matter of making a dance about the subject matter and your need to really investigate what we're going through right now?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it was a need so much as a what else can I do right now? I tend to pull directly from my environment when I'm making work. And so a lot of the movement I found myself making in my house, and it's kind of what came out. And I don't know, I guess the natural connection was this is where we are right now. So this is what we're doing right now. And was yeah, I guess just influenced by being in this state of at home, feeling a little trapped, not moving around much.
Great. So we're joined today by two local creatives, Cece Norman and Neil Ellis Orts, as well as one of your dancers in the piece, Lindsay Kortner. So I want to start off with this question, and I just thought about it when I was rewatching this just now. You know, I remember us having a conversation maybe over a year ago, and we were talking about your work and your movement, and you mentioned how a dance patron in the local arts community commented that your work that you were Houston's academic choreographer. And so I want to start the discussion there with Neil, Cece, and Lindsay, and you too, Lori, of course. What does this mean, academic choreographer? What do you think this suggests or implies?
I can talk about from that context.
Mhm.
I think in that conversation, it was about my work isn't overtly narrative, and I often deal in, I'm interested in structure and form. So I think that was coming through, and I'll let Neil and Cece speak, and Lindsay, if you want to, before I, oh yay, Nicole's here too.
Oh, hey, Nicole, you can
Hi.
join in on this too.
I'm not really sure. By the way, I'm not intentionally hiding myself. I just can't, for some reason my video has stopped. But yeah. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Adam. Surprise. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I feel like your process is not, in my opinion, dissimilar to some other people's processes who I've worked with recently. Even Ashley, like in a similar way, you'll give us tasks or ideas, or like, this is what we want from you, or you. This is what I want from you for this particular moment, and so we, cobble together things that you've given us and that we've put into it ourselves. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything anything special or interesting to say about that other than what I just said.
I would like to add, I mean, I really actually enjoy Lori's process, maybe because it's a little hodgepodge, if you will, right? We're kind of working like with a central theme, a central idea, but she gives us the space to work together, figure out kind of our own narratives within the larger narrative, so we can have somewhat of a voice within her voice. She kind of gives us that vehicle. I worked with you, a number of times on several different projects, and it's always a slightly different process in the sense that we understand kind of the final goal, and we understand like the individual components, and then bringing everything together is kind of part of the fun.
Yeah, I guess the term academic is surprising to me, but I guess what I think about when I hear that is that it's I think people use academic when it says it's sort of in the headspace. And while I don't know that that's how I would necessarily describe her work, what I also think about it as academic is the exposure to a lot of different things. And I see a lot of different influences on Lori's work. There's a lot of technicality, technical dancing in it. There's also, not so much this piece, but other pieces. There's a pedestrian movement a lot, I think. And also sort of a performance arty sensibility about some of it. Which are things I think a lot of people first encounter in an academic setting, right? I don't know how many people encounter performance art without having some sort of class. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm projecting, but that's what I think of when you say academic, and that's how I would apply it to Lori's work. The range of influences and styles.
Well, I will say that I was surprised by that sort of label as well, because dancing in the two pieces of yours that I've been in, I feel very warm, and I almost feel the most human that I felt from among, the choreographers I worked for. I feel like there's a very human intention behind the choreography, and then also a very human sensibility within the movement, which is why I just, and I don't really associate those qualities with, academic dancing or choreography that's academic, because I think also what goes into that label is, yeah, like you mentioned, structure and form, but I feel like the human impulses come alive within the structure and forms that you create. So I guess, I guess for me, I wouldn't describe it as academic because of that. So, so this question is for Lindsay. Nicole, you've been in many of Lori's works. I've been in two. Lindsay, this was your first time working with Lori. And as someone who dances often throughout the city, what is it like entering the process of a choreographer that you're new to? And what was it like being in Lori's process for the first time?
It's different each time with a new choreographer, depending on how comfortable I am with their style of movement and with how they just disseminate information in general. But it was especially odd this time, not because of Lori, but because of the format. Because like Ashley's, whoever was here for both watching both pieces, we primarily worked together over Zoom, and it really wasn't. And we had a couple more towards the end where we were in person and got to space things a little bit better, and costume and all that kind of stuff. But the Zoom thing is a challenge, in my opinion. And I meant to say that actually earlier with Ashley's as well. Just something as basic as right and left. It's insane how hard it is to, if someone wants me to be on the same side to do right, I have to do opposite of what they're doing, which for me, especially when you turn around and I'm like looking over my shoulder and I'm always on the wrong arm, like it felt very much like I imagine it is for some of those like young students I teach who don't know right and left yet, and they're like, and it's always like the wrong limb, and who knows, I can't look like this person next to me, and yeah, it was very very difficult for me in that regard. But other than that, I found the process really really relaxed and easy. And easy might not be the right word, not easy in the sense of no challenge, but easy in the sense of like you said about Ashley too, like it's very calm. There's no high pressure nonsense, I will say, which I appreciated very, very much.
Thank you. Um, I- Such an important component of this work, I think, is the images that are created, and a big part of that is the set that was created by CC Norman. So the hanging tapestries were made by you. Can you tell us about the materials you used to create the pieces and your thought process in creating a set piece for dance?
Um, so Lori reached out to me about making the pieces. We know each other kind of through the Farm Finca Choice Robles and the dancing that you all did with Pilot there last year. And like within my own practice, I've been developing inks and dyes and things with natural ingredients. So we just had a really good conversation about what we are surrounded with and what we consumed during the pandemic. So the tapestries have about a case of wine, and I was calculating it because I was watching it, and about 60 gallons of coffee on them.
Nice.
And some of it was listening to Lori's perspective of like form and structure, and like just that daily process of having coffee or having wine, and like how it kind of spills over. And it's on bed sheets, so it's kind of like what the last 8 months of my life have been like in general. And the colors are a big component of it too. Like if it didn't look good, I wouldn't want to do it. So it was really nice to like go into the garden at my apartment complex and like just throw coffee and wine on it. But then having visited one of your rehearsals, like kind of thinking of the movements you had and trying to like put a little bit of that within it too. So like while you can't see it, there's still that like element of like at least thinking of the movements within it.
Thank you. Neil, you're a local performance artist and writer and mover, and you work with Lori here in Houston as Fieldworks facilitators. What stood out to you about this piece? And you could do fieldwork style or not, but what were some of the significant pieces for you?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is I'm sorry, Lori, that this was an overwhelming part of it for me, because I know you didn't plan this in your living room, but the sounds made when there were no music were really strong for me. And I always enjoy silent dancing, and I always enjoy the sounds that happen because there is no music. So that's one thing. So I really appreciate that, and that stands out. But what were we all saying? Whoa, whoa. It's like first time that happened, I was like, what was that? What when and then I thought, well, surely that was intended and it'll come back, and it did. And I it felt, I don't want to say intrusive, but it felt, that sounds negative because it wasn't negative, but it was, I mean, as you talk about this being a piece about right now and here we are, and what are we doing? And then there's these whoa moments that it makes sense, and it was something I looked forward to see how it would play out the next time. Yeah, I'll leave it at those two things. But I mean, the overall dancing, it felt like a very dancey piece compared to some things I've seen you do, where there's, I think I tend to associate more than anybody else in Houston with sort of pedestrian movement incorporated, and I didn't see that this time. And so that was interesting. Oh, and because I'm taking Zoom classes with Lori, it was also interesting to see pieces that she tried out on us.
Your favorites.
Thanks, Neil. Would anyone like to add on to that? Well, I'll turn to the last question to you, Lori, and it's similar to the last one that I asked Ashley. You know, as Neil said, you know, you are teaching dance and you're dancing and you're making dance. So what is driving you to stay with your movement practice?
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually was feeling, I don't know, before COVID hit, a little antsy, not sure if I wanted to continue, which I don't know, putting it that way is a little more dramatic than it was, but wasn't quite sure. And then I don't know, just this compulsion towards movement, and it is my grounding. It's my way of staying calm and my way of processing the world. So it just felt inevitable. Like I needed to move. I needed to create. It's my way of connecting to people. So I needed a way to be with people. And this was a lovely way to spend Sunday afternoons. And I think it's interesting that this is the piece that came out of this. I think I talked to you all about this in rehearsal, that a lot of my work is highly improvised, and all of a sudden I went into a highly choreographed set, less pedestrian place while rehearsing on Zoom. I don't know why, but maybe it was a way of having control over something, having a way of designing something specifically at a point when everything feels impossible to hold on to.
And this just came in. Ashley Horn says, I always enjoy seeing your work. I feel like there's always a smart wink in there that piques my interest.
Thanks, Ashley.
So on that note, thank you so much, Lori, for giving the company such a wonderful work. It was so great to be in the process again and to see the finished product, which I think was stunning. So thank you. So we're going to move on to our last video of the night. It's always great to see dance in a theatrical setting. It's one of the things that I miss most about these times. But another thing that I miss is showing works in progress. And I've actually been thinking about the fieldwork process a lot lately because I miss, you know, showing things that are in development. So today I thought I would go back to that and show a rehearsal video of a first draft of a piece that is actually showing this Saturday, November 7th, in collaboration with Art Unity. And so I want to show, you know, the very first full run of an excerpt of a 20-minute sculpture performance piece called Weaving North Side. And then after we watch it, Lori, Ashley, and Neil are going to give some raw first impressions and feedback. And then after we hear their thoughts, we'll hear from Art Unity's Tammy Mosciani about what it is we're doing on Saturday. So here is an excerpt of Weaving North Side. I'm about to play the music.
Oh, that means I should get my shit together.
And
I keep forgetting.
Okay, great. Okay, so raw first impressions and notes. Lori, Neil, and Ashley, each one of you can chime in whenever you're ready.
Does it have to be fieldwork style?
It does not.
Oh, good. I struggle with fieldwork. I really enjoyed that, Adam. I feel like you're really pushing yourself to try new movement, and I really enjoyed the staccato sections, the parts that were really broken down, because I know that you really enjoy that kind of full body release, which I do too. And it was nice to see you kind of try something else. And I thought the shapes were so beautiful, and it was really satisfying to see them over and over again. Every time I never got sick of them. Every time it was, yeah, it was, they're great. Great work.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, similar to what Ashley said, the shapes that kept repeating, but the section where they roll and come up into the shape felt really satisfying somehow. And that your dancers were really tight on that and felt like they really did, like, what does it feel like? It feels like something, it feels like a rubber shape that you pull out and then it snaps back into shape, and it just felt, I don't know, it was
Thank you.
Otherwise, I would say it felt very sculptural and and just in general shaped. I don't know if that's not a helpful word. It felt very
It is.
It felt very sculptural and formed, and even when they're like talking to each other and saying, "Oh no, over here," or whatever they're saying. Process. But it was really, it felt tight and settled. I don't know, which I enjoy.
Thank you.
I think my first impression was also sculptural, with the shapes that popped out. But then as it went along, I had this sense of it being this organism. I don't know why, but the image of kind of under the sea kept coming to my head, like the school of fish would go by and you'd see the octopus over here and the coral, like these organisms that can separate but then come back to some sort of form, and have I guess a unity within them, like they coexist in the same space. Yeah, I don't know. I kept thinking octopus. It wasn't octopus movement at all, but the way that octopuses can shapeshift, it's sort of like they become this and then they come this and then you recognize their form again. And it had kind of an intelligence about it that moved around.
Thank you. And Michelle Brangwin says, I agree, those repeating shapes were so enjoyable and satisfying, like a sculpture that is dancing. I love the stillness, really enjoyable to watch. Well, thank you, everyone. I wish I had time to incorporate all of these comments, but the piece is done. It's being performed on Saturday. But with us is Tammy Mosciani of Art Unity, a public art and duo, and she's one half of that. So Tammy, I was wondering if you could share with us what Weaving Northside is and what people can expect on Saturday if they choose to attend.
Sure. I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have built a temporary sculpture. We have a grant from the Houston Art Alliance, and unfortunately, the funds this year were cut in half. We had hoped to do this project and do sculptures that would be semi-permanent, but with the funds cut, Adam was so gracious to stay in this project with us and use other funds from the pilot dance company, which allowed us really to focus on just doing our temporary sculptures and organizing the venue and doing a survey in the north side. I have tried to turn on my video. I don't know if you see me.
Yes, we see you.
Okay. So the sculptures should be behind me.
They're beautiful.
And do you see them?
Yes.
Okay. So those are the shapes that Adam, we had done a sketch, and we really built these out of level blind slats and wood structures that we created and then painted, and we wanted the colors and the shapes to really reflect North Side very strongly. And then Adam brought a lot of intuition to it, that we also built it so the balls can be removed and then added back in. So the dancers will actually be interacting with the sculptures in the very beginning, and then they will perform the rest of the performance once they're built. So I thought that was an interesting concept, and it was really important to Adam to have a live audience. We were thinking we would do a video, but we pulled off getting a socially distanced and masked performance. There's two of them at 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturday at the Leonel Castillo Baker Ripley Community Center.
And if you would like to join us, we could put the Eventbrite link on our Facebook comment section. It is free to the public, but you do need to reserve a spot because we are only having 25 people at each performance, because we do want to respect everyone's health in these times. So with that, it concludes night 4 of the Houston Fringe Festival. Thank you, Tammy and Ashley and Lori and Neil and all of the other panelists. And I want to encourage everyone that our headlining company is going to be on tomorrow, Tejas Dance. They will be presenting an evening length work. They are a classical Indian dance company from Dallas. And so we will be seeing a 50-minute excerpt of their piece, The Woman Next Door. So if you've never experienced classical Indian dance, Tejas Dance is the group to experience it with. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night, and hopefully we will wake up in a better tomorrow.